Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending October 6th, 2019. This is episode 333, folks, where we talk about all things smart building and HVAC controls. I am joined by your host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only secret agent man, Kenny Smyers.
You're not going to let that die, huh? You're going to keep that one going. Okay.
That's too cool, man. It's absolutely too cool.
Well, I wish I could live up to a secret agent, man. Right now, I'm a bumbling What am I?
You're right.
Maxwell Smart.
Maxwell Smart.
Yeah. Get smart. Yeah. So, how are you doing? You look like you're in a good rosy mood there. What did you get the Falcons? They looking good this week?
No. The Braves are looking pretty good. They
sure are.
So they're looking good. The Falcons, I tell you, football season's over for me. They're dead to me right now.
You know that pitcher that closed off last night for you, Malson? That he was a Pirate. You know, I just want to let you know.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
All our pitchers are playing in the playoffs now. We got Morton played in the one game playoff. You got the Astros. You got it's all our ex-Pirates. We're a farm club for the National League and American League. It's a shame.
Well, it is a shame. But they're good players. So that's turned out to be a really good baseball series. And dude, we got a lot of good stuff going on, and then there's some sort of sad stuff going on, Kenny. And I think we probably should talk a little bit about. We lost two of our really, really great folks this week. Quite suddenly, and one being Mike Swan from RSD. Mike's been on the show before a couple of times. One of the all-time just amazing people. So very sad to report that Mike always had a smile on his face.
He did.
Always helpful. I never heard him say anything negative about anybody. He was always willing to help if you needed help. I mean, he truly epitomized the best of humanity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there was some really touching stuff in Facebook here. Even this morning, his wife just told everybody thank you because the outpouring was national, maybe international. I got him. I always knew Mike because I had it wrong. I thought he was from Minot, North Dakota, and I went to Grand Forks Air Force. I think I mistook because there's an Air Force base in Minot, but he knew all about the 4 years I spent in Grand Forks because it was tough. It was very difficult climate-wise, but you're right. He was such a nice guy. I mean, he found the good things in everything. Even at the meetings we went to, where there'd be people yelling at each other, he would intermediate, and he would come up with a good idea for both sides to consider. He just always had that upbeat thing. He recently did a couple of cool things. That he did a Corvette trip from Fresno to the Corvette Museum in Kentucky, and he posted on Facebook every day, and it just had an adventure. He recently had a cool trip with his brothers. They did some golfing down there, I think in North Carolina, but he was just a good guy. He worked hard, very intelligent.
Well, he's a great controls guy. I mean, I think it was might have been. I shouldn't say necessarily lost on people. When you think of Mike, he had so many other great attributes that sometimes you didn't even acknowledge the fact that he was one of the most brilliant controls guys in our industry. So he was brilliant with that big Fresno State Bulldog fan. God, I hate to see him go. Mike, God bless you wherever you are, brother. The way I look at it is that, God just needs somebody to work on the system in the sky and said, hey, here's the best guy right here. I'm bringing him up. So.
That's kind of, and then we lost another guy, Dave Rodella. Dave Rodella was out of the Siemens industry, and he was our field technical officer or support person. He battled cancer, and he also gave way last Sunday. But he loved to fish. He was a very good person too. He did a lot of volunteer work.
He was one of our best technical support into the control.
Exactly. Yeah, he was technical support person of the year, and so a lot of people know him. And again, these guys were stalwarts. I mean, they were pillars. Every day they came to work, and just a lot of people relied on them for assistance in some official or technical capacity. But they'll be missed. They created vacuum spots that people won't be able to fill because it's just they were one of a kind type people, and it is sad. It's very sad. So.
Well, God bless them, and thoughts and prayers go out to their families. And Kenny, we got a great guest lined up. He sort of teed up off camera. Let's get to a couple of things real quick. Anything we need to get to before we bring our guest?
Yeah, we just wanted to just remind everybody, Automated Buildings October theme, Building User Connection in the Smart City by Ken St. Clair. Again, the guy is just hitting them out of the park every month. The theme here is that Ken looks into his crystal ball, and he sees some very exciting things in the future for our buildings. But he's talking about he explores the seamless building user experience and the amazing future of the buildings in smart cities. In other words, you can't have smart cities till you have smart buildings, and to make those buildings smart, how are you going to get it accomplished? He believes that the technology will be wireless and they'll be connected to glass. So he's talking about the wireless, well-connected airway to our building backbone of glass. So read more at the come to Control Trends, click on Ken St. Clair October edition. And then we have a functional devices post. They've got some really interesting things going on in functional devices. Again, they're the utility club of our industry. They provide solutions when you think you've run out of inputs and outputs and you need to put something on a network, whether it's a LAN or BACnet. Take a look at what functional devices has to offer, because they've got some really, really, really good products and solutions. And finally, why don't you tell us about the young gun, Aaron Gorka?
Well, Aaron Gorka, Next Generation Innovation, he does a podcast with Brent Burrows here out of Atlanta. But Aaron spoke to a group of people on change management. And dude, who knew that Aaron knew so much about change management? It was brilliant talk. Encourage you to listen to it. Aaron, just so you know, at Ant Technologies, they do software for the contractors to help them sort of bring everything together seamlessly. But great job by Aaron. Look, we got some more stuff from him and Brett, so check out Next Generation Innovation. And then with that, Kenny, let's bring our guest on. A good friend of ours has agreed to come on the show. This is a great opportunity for our Control Trends community to get to know one of the really, really greats, one of the great minds in our industry. How about introducing our guest this week?
Eric, I'd love to. One of the stalwarts of our industry from the two-step distribution corner of the world, we have the CEO of Control Consultants, John Donahue. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, good morning. John. Good morning, guys. Thanks. It's a real pleasure.
We love having you here. And listen, so our audience knows John is he's a stealth guy. There's some big changes going on in the industry. Jay Renaui, this affects you. So John is incognito now because he's been skulking around Philadelphia, looking at staking some new territory. So you're not going to see John's face right now because he's in disguise. But John, man, we go back a long, long way. For our audience who might not know, tell them a little about what CCI does.
Well, CCI is a full-fledged distributor of automatic temperature controls and solutions predominantly for our contractor customer base. We were established in 1989. Prior to that, I had worked for another distributor. So right out of college, I have been involved in the distribution of temperature controls from day one back in '79. I will say, while I worked for that other distributor, a company called Energy Control Systems based here in the greater Boston area, I had the pleasure of attending a Barbara Coleman training out in the cornfields of Rockford, Illinois. I got to meet a couple of young guys, Eric Stromquist and Tommy Smyers, and I think we had a little more fun than we were probably supposed to, but we did learn some things about the Wheatstone Bridge, if I remember.
No, we did, man. That was great. We spent 3 weeks up here in training with 3 young bucks in the industry, and I don't know about you, but my attorney tells me I'm still not allowed in Rockford for another 10 years. I don't know, is your restraining order expired anytime soon? I know Tommy's not allowed there either.
Well, I haven't been back, so I really haven't challenged my ability to get in and out of that city.
Yes. Well, I tell you what, those were the days, weren't they? And it was fun. I'll never forget those days. It was great training back in the day. Barbara Coleman, which is now part of Snyder Electric, used to be the place to go to get trained, right?
That was it. And if you remember, Eric, we were getting their training center wasn't open yet, and we spent 3 weeks in, I think it was at elementary school, and we could barely fit in the chairs, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And then every day after that, we'd play racquetball. Me, you, and Tommy Smyers, Kenny's older brother, play racquetball. And then after that, we go do a little studying, and then we go out and relax a little bit just for a couple hours, but it's amazing at that age what you can do without sleep, because I don't think we slept the whole time we were there. But Rockford was never the same, and we were never the same at Rockford. So.
No, the one thing I do remember now, this is 1981, and the three of us, after playing racquetball, went for a run, and we're literally running out on some roadsides along the cornfields there in Illinois. I mean, in Illinois. And some old farmer kind of just looked at us and like, what are you boys running from?
On the lamb, yeah.
Yeah, for
What an
sure.
extraordinary thing, because I think it's a great starting point of where one of the concepts we track, John, is the evolution of our world, our HVAC world, two-step distribution and things like that. But imagine going away for 3 weeks
Oh, I
to
know.
get intense training. I mean, that was back when you were a sales engineer, because typically you spent the time in the classroom and then you had some sort of an end of course evaluation. And when you came back, you had a certificate that you proudly hung on the wall that said, hey, it's like a basic training thing. We went through the course, whatever it was called, and then you're now allowed to sell their products.
Yeah, and Kenny, you're so right about it, because you did have to take a test to be certified, and actually it was just a 1-week course, but took me, John, and Tommy 3 weeks to actually wind up passing it. They just got tired of us and sent us back, but it was great. And John, I have such tremendous respect for you, because you're totally a self-made man. You worked for another distributor. You saw a need in the marketplace, and you started your own business, man. You took the leap. So talk about that a little bit, and sort of what had you propel into business. And for people out there who are talking about becoming distributors, what do you wish you know now that you wish you know then that you know now?
Well, I think, the start of my business was basically caused because, the industry from an HVAC standpoint had started to change. I mean, truthfully, back in the 80s, that was the first time we saw VAV boxes and VAV rooftops. We started to see the commercial office space go from the inner cities out to the beltways. And, for the first time, we started to see a space in the market called computer rooms. And, the mechanical contractors, the HVAC contractors had to really stay on top of the equipment. And controls started to slip away from them, and controls started to become more sophisticated. For the first time, mid to late 80s, we were now dealing with, computerized controls, and that was well beyond what, they had the time to really learn. So it gave me an opportunity to take a lead, and the name Control Consultants came from just that. People would come to me and they would tell me, they would let me know, hey, this is the end results, this is what I'm looking to accomplish, and what do I need to get there? And so, then we went from being just a break fix type house where we gave people replacement pieces and parts to providing them with systems and solutions. We took it beyond that, and we provided some engineering behind that. We would do point-to-point diagrams for them, so that we did everything we could to make the installation of the controls that we were supplying them with as simple as possible. We like to say, we were a very early easy button. And I think that was the foundation of our company.
Very, very cool.
Well, to that point, John, the evolution of controls, if you had to give the 2-minute summary with your personal experience, when did you see the major evolving points when you went from, like you said, that's pretty cool how the VAV was introduced and became now it's so common, it's the preferred way to do commercial zoning. What do you remember in your career, the span of your career, where you really thought this is really neat, new, and then the next generation? Just kind of in your opinion, the evolution?
Yeah.
Well, I'd probably say it was the late 80s, early 90s. Again, people were demanding more out of what their equipment could do. Equipment manufacturers were focused on, manufacturing more efficient equipment, and they kind of left it back to the independent control manufacturers, or the Honeywells, the Johnsons of this world, to make up the controls that were needed to meet the sequences. The evolution of network controls, taking individual pieces of equipment, connecting them all onto one network, again, back in the early 90s, probably. I'd say that was the time frame. And the desire to have, one central time clock as opposed to and that being a computerized time clock as opposed to, multiple mechanical time clocks all over the place.
Well, I remember when I first came back in '93. I was with a family business and then went into the military and went to Germany for a while. I remember coming back and I fell in love with those the T775 and the A319 and Johnson's A350 system, where you could do just about everything you needed by stacking them up.
Yeah.
And then you could do PIDs, you could do sequencing, you could do on-off control, and then it really jumped forward, like you said. It went from that kind of a solution set to you had to have I remember the first time we saw a little tiny Mitsubishi computer or laptop. I don't even know what they call it, mini computer. I don't know what the heck it was. They didn't call them laptops. I don't think back then. It was too early. But I was fascinated. And the mouse, it was all black magic. And then next thing you know, you couldn't do anything unless you had one of those. You had to have the software, and it was a.
Yeah, to sort of put it in perspective for our younger listeners out there, because we are a little bit older here. But John, when we were up there, we learned about the class we alluded to earlier. We learned about pneumatics, and we learned about the new electronic system, the Barbara Coleman 8000 controller. And all your adjustments were made with potentiometers and screwdrivers, right? And we thought that was just magic, because you went from pneumatic to electromechanical to electronic. And so that was a huge piece. And then, the next big thing, Honeywell and Johnson, because basically all people were doing network systems at that time were the branches, right? And then Honeywell came out with W7600 and Johnson came out with the Metasys system. And I'll never forget, this is just how business sort of changed and the mindset changes, because I remember Johnson was offering an additional 10 or 15% discount on all your products if you were set up with the Metasys. So I went to the president of our company at the time, Lewis Cook, and said, Lewis, we got to take this product on. We'll never sell any, meaning the Metasys. We'll never sell any, but we'll get a 20% discount above what we're already getting, at least until they cut us off. And he said, okay, I'm good with that, but you're the guy who's going to be in charge of it. I said, cool. That's great, because we were thinking price and, selling to other distributors and all that. And then the fateful day came where somebody from the counter calls up and goes, hey, there's a guy down here who wants to talk about Metasys. And so I go down there, John and Ken, and this guy standing goes, you want to talk to you about Metasys? Sir, I got a confession. I know absolutely nothing about this. We just took this on to get the price. He goes, what's a good product? I'll teach you. So that became my first teacher. So my contractor actually taught me about that. But Honeywell and Johnson were the first two that sort of pioneered a control system that came through distribution. And then from there, it just evolved. And kind of, John, I guess my question for you, because you did both those product lines too, and so did Kenny. How do you see it sort of evolve from there? And why do you think it evolved where now it really seems like the distributor, at least until recently and probably going into the future, became the linchpin, really, the value add point. But speak a bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, as much as they developed systems, there was still, they developed hardware for systems, and not everybody wanted the same end result. So that's where the value add that the distributor brought to the table. He knew, and he learned and was forced to learn the product inside and out, what it could do and couldn't do. He had to learn its strengths and weaknesses. And, we had to take that and bend those devices into shapes that they probably weren't originally designed for to meet their applications. I have several engineers around here that when in fact they do pass, I'm going to inscript their sequences of operation on the tombstone, because they are one of a kind, and those sequences should go right into the ground with them, for crying out loud. We just real quick, the first thing that I remember getting trained on from Honeywell when I owned my company was a thing called the W7505, which was a 5-channel device that did scheduling.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It was a beautiful piece of equipment, man. Remember,
it was
it was gorgeous.
Great piece of hardware. It allowed us to do holidays and 365-day scheduling, and it did a thing called demand control, and wow, and then we went right from that into XL 5000, which was like a complete blank sheet of paper and you could go make it do whatever you wanted to do. I think at the same, and then after that, we went into the LCBS, which brought the product back down to a bigger audience that we allow. Now we could sell that as distributors to smart HVAC contractors. And then we went back up to the blank sheet of paper again. And I'm speaking all Honeywell now, but we went to the Spiders, and now we're into Cypers, and God knows what else is coming.
You know, if you need a W7505, you call Tommy up. He might have one.
I'm sure he does.
Get you a good price, I think.
I love that product, man. It was cool stuff. And then I think that, to your point, the value became we were able to offer more personalized service. And, one of the trends that we saw, John, was it too, and I see this as being an evolving change, was that, you pick pretty much picked one brand. You became the Honeywell person or the Johnson person or the Barbara Coleman person, and that was it. You sort of had your territory, you sort of had your deal, and you were the guy with that. But it seems like one of the trends that's happened is the market is pretty much demanded that as a distributor, you better have more than one solution up your sleeve. And one of the reasons for that is once the internet came around, the manufacturers were no longer able to protect the territory. So you could do all the work and then somebody else could sell into your territory. But the other thing, more pertinent reason, was that I think the owners have become more savvy, and I think the contractors are being asked to do more. You said that part of what a distributor could do is tell me what you need to do and I'll tell you how to do it. And now you almost have to have more than one product line in your bag of tricks to be able to do that. Agree or disagree, and how has that affected your business?
No, I couldn't agree more. I think that, a couple things. I think for us to grow our businesses individually, I can't put a Honeywell guy on every corner because all of our contractors today have options. Honeywell and Johnson have been very loyal to two-step distribution. There's, so many other manufacturers out there today selling boxes, and let's face it, they're all just green circuit boards, with a different colored cover on top of them. And they all have choices. So again, we can't set up a Honeywell guy on every corner, but we're challenged to grow our own businesses so that we look for other lines, or we have customers who, because of a need, they want to go to a different product, not full time, but maybe for a particular job. Challenges are for us as a distributor is in order to continue to provide that, value-added service, we have to keep hiring more and more people. The burden is on us to be the technical experts in, it's not just 2 lines today, it's 4, 5, 6 lines. Some of the manufacturers push technology quicker than others, and that's what makes contractors go from one to another. I know servicing the New York City area, that's all about wireless product.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole new technology we've had to try to stay on top of. And, it's tough, right? I mean, the burden is on us. And, the type of people I hire today, I mean, they're not your traditional HVAC people. Our tech support people come more from the IT field, the computer science backgrounds, far more than they do come from the HVAC industry.
No, well said. Well, listen, is it public knowledge? Can we talk about the move to Philadelphia, or do we need to keep that off record for now?
I need a couple more weeks.
Okay, good. All right.
Well, John,
that is so exciting, though, John. I'm really happy for you. That's going to hit the industry like a bombshell. But anyway, Kenny has a question for you.
Well, no, because this is really interesting, reminiscing because, John, we were asking you your memories of how the industry evolved. But I remember this program was called Operation Monarch. And that's when the branches, one particular manufacturer let go of a whole lot of really intelligent, trained people in an effort to reduce their overhead. And they wanted to put more horses in the same race. And to do that, they had to enable the contracting, the distributors and the contractors. The distributors took that overhead on, and they had good incentives to do it. There was money to be made if you could get a good, successful relationship with a reliable contractor, and then start bidding on the work. But it was really an amazing event to be part of, because you saw all these guys that got these pink slips, and then they went out and started their own businesses or joined, different companies, and then all of a sudden it all took off. But one of the things I think too that was really interesting was, remember the term placebo and the thermostats on the wall that weren't really hooked up and didn't work or whatever. Do you
Sure.
remember how we used to play the game? What do you think about what's the impact that the consumer or the end user or the occupant, how did they change our business?
I think, again, it's all about technology. I think that they're becoming as smart, if not smarter than us some days, as far as what their expectations are.
Well said.
I think home automation is just so far, leaps and bounds ahead of where we are in the commercial world. And today, they expect to walk into their office building and control everything through their iPhone as they do at home.
Right.
And our manufacturers are not really in a position yet to really provide them with what they're looking for.
You bring up a really good point, John. And again, I think this is part of the role of a distributor in having the bag of tricks, because if you look at, companies have been around for a long time, like legacy companies. I mean, they're sort of saddled with the burden of not only trying to develop new technology, but then supporting the legacy systems, which, if I was going to start a controls company today, I'd want to start it from scratch, not having a legacy. You got all these new players that are coming to the marketplace that don't have the burden of a legacy or even the name of a legacy. And they're able to come up with just really, really innovative technology. And I think this can be very confusing for the end user. It can be very challenging for our contractor. So, it's at least it's strong quest. I think Kenny's the same way. And I mean, part of what a role of a distributor is to sort of ferret through that technology. I know I have contractors now that they don't have time to take phone calls from the vendors. So they basically just say, hey, look, call Eric. If Eric likes it, we'll talk to you, right? So they sort of use us as a vetting process, because somebody's got to learn it, make sure it works, somebody's got to support it, and so on and so forth. So it seems like the role of a distributor is expanding, to your point, because of the technology that people are expecting now because of the home automation.
Yeah, and you're right, Eric. We ferret through things every day. And, again, I keep going back to the loyalty of several manufacturers to two-step distribution, because that's who we are. We're distributors. And, they're the ones who are burdened, it seems, with this legacy product. And they're the ones who, they're bigger machines. They're bigger companies. They do want to, for their own P&L, they just want to bang out that same device 1,000 times a day. And, maybe they're not pushing the envelope as much as some of these independent companies, but at the same time, the one thing that they've always brought to us has been stability and products that are time tested and work.
Good point.
Some of this new technology, and people ask me about it, without talking about particular brand names, but I'm concerned with putting it out there. When you sell a 300 VAV box job and someone has to reflash the hardware 3 times over a 6-month period, all of a sudden that customer is not unhappy with the manufacturer, he's more unhappy with me. And I find myself defending our own company against nothing that we did wrong, but we gave them what they wanted, but yet when it didn't work, we had to take the brunt of the blame.
Really well said, John, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, what we trade on is our reputation, our integrity, and people and the trust. People have trust us. So it is very, very challenging now, more so than ever in the distribution game, because again, before, you had your 1 or 2 product lines, you had your territory, and in many ways, life was a lot simpler because you just went out and you sold that. You knew what you had, and the products didn't change all that much. I mean, you get a product and it have an 8, 9, 10-year run. I mean, all of them, So, and then the product could change. You go through the upgrade, you get the kinks worked out, and then you'd have another 10-year run. Now it seems like the products, at least some of them, are changing every 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 months. So keeping up is just such a challenge.
I got to tell you a quick story. I recently went out to a site with a customer to talk about upgrading the control system in the building. And the control system that was in that building, which was a newly constructed building 30 years ago, was the very first project that I was involved with in at CCI. That was the very first project that I designed for a
Nice.
customer. And I said to myself, you know, this could be an omen. I think this should be my first job and maybe my last job. Right?
Don't you be talking like that, John Donahue. We lost 2 greats this week. Don't you be talking like that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, 30 years, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and 30 years and maybe the only reason the product was going to be replaced was not so much that it wasn't working. It's just that the product now, it's end of life. There's no more replacement hardware for it. And, you know, the system had probably been ignored for 10, 15 years and really was in a little bit of a disarray, not because of the product's fault, but because of, you know, ownership's fault.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's very interesting in the term when you said that, John, it was obsolescence. You know, and Sloan, the former GM, he was the one that said that you have to come out with new model cars every year, or people won't buy new cars. You have to create new features and benefits, and put new grills on cars and fins and whatever it takes to motivate people to buy the newest model. But, you know, you guys talked about that Network 8000. I'll tell you what, you talk about a system that was designed and was bulletproof. I mean, that stuff still works. I mean, we replace valves every once in a while, and you marvel over the fact this thing's, you know, 40 years old and it's still basically intact. So that the whole emphasis was on product and the engineering cycle, I used to refer to it, you know, it would be 15 years. That product was supposed to last 15 years. And now they cut it down to cycles. And if it doesn't break by the 600,000 cycle, then you're doing your job wrong, because we need the damn thing to break so we can replace it, you know? So that's another thing too. And, you know, I just want to say one more thing real quick. John, thank you for being the gigantic beta site for that new technology. Let us know when it works.
Yeah.
And the views expressed by Kenny Smyers about products need to be obsolete are not necessarily the views of this show. So you are the big dog.
I know.
Sure. But it's a good point. But, you know, John, you know, we got quite a group of listeners. We got everybody from end users to consulting engineers, a lot of integrators, a lot of contractors. For the contractors out there who are saying, well, I just want to buy direct from a manufacturer. Why would I buy through a distributor? What would you say to them? Why buy through a distribution if you could buy direct?
Well, I think, you know, first of all, the job of a distributor, I've always believed, is threefold. We're supposed to be the local expertise in product knowledge and support. We're supposed to be local inventory, and of all things, it's probably one of the biggest things we can bring. And then thirdly, we're the local finance for these contractors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we struggled this past year with a couple of manufacturers who had severe delivery issues. And I am absolutely shocked that we went almost 12, 13 months not having certain product available to us, but yet we never had any lawsuits from any customers. We never had to pay out any money, but because of our willingness to inventory product and work with other distributors, you know, like the Stromquist Company and others, we're able to barter back and forth. And we took that ugliness of the manufacturer and made it so that it was completely, you know, unseen by the contractor. You know, dealing direct, sure, maybe they're going to get a little bit better pricing you know, and if it's purely based upon price, I don't know if I really want that as a customer. But, you know, the support, boy, I think the support is stronger through distribution today than it is through most manufacturers. You know, who's there at 5:30 on a Friday night to give somebody something because they need it for Saturday morning? You know, who's taking that call on a Sunday morning? I mean, that's not a manufacturer. That's a local distributor taking care of his local customer. The local part, the relationship part. You know, we know our best customers' kids' names. We know when their wedding anniversary is. You know, I mean, it's all about relationship, and I think that's one of the biggest things that we bring to the market as opposed to a manufacturer.
Well said.
Very well said, John. And, you know, I think it's also an environmental issue. And what I mean by that is that, you know, you sort of have to think more than just that next transaction. And, you know, for example, Amazon, you know, very easy to buy books from Amazon and stuff like that, right? But whenever I can, I go to Barnes and Noble, okay? because I want them to be around. I can take my kids to Barnes and Noble and they can browse and stuff like that. So it's a conscious decision. Sometimes I'm willing to pay a little bit more or go out of my way because I want to have choice down the road. And I think that, you know, especially to maybe our younger customers out there or listeners out there that, you know, are used to buying even HVAC products on Amazon or from internet only, that, support your local distributor if you want them to be around because they create a lot of value. And John, I would say one of the biggest sources of value we do outside of being a bank, was one of them, and having the products and inventory the products, which is you and Kenny both know that costs a ton of money to have the products there so they're available. The other thing we do is we help create a market. We're out there talking to owners and trying to create a market so that our contractors don't necessarily have to go out and sell, right? So there's a ton that distributors do. I think, and it's changed, and I think I'm going to shift the conversation here a little bit because I think that if you're the same distributor you are now that you were back when we got started in the 80s, 90s, even 2000s, even as little as 2015, far back as 2015, and you're not evolving and changing, you are going to be obsolete because you have to create more value. So my question for both you guys is, what distributors need to keep doing that they've done that have been successful, and what do they need to let go of, and what do they need to add on? So what's the distributor going to look like that's going to be able to survive and continue to create value?
Yeah, I agree, Eric. I mean, that's a great point that, we can no longer afford to just be suppliers, just supplying pieces and parts. And you touched on a point that our contractors don't really have time to sell. I think it's incumbent upon the distributors to constantly be finding ways and to recognize what their business, contractor's business really is, and finding ways to help them sell. We currently have a program going on right now. We have a tremendous utility rebate programs here in the state of Massachusetts. And, we're constantly having seminars and showing them ways to provide their customers with energy savings and at the same time creating work for them that otherwise wasn't going to come to them. We've taught the service mechanic that, he is the trusted individual in that building, and that his customer would most likely buy just about anything that he highly recommends, but he doesn't consider himself a salesperson. So we help him become that. And by putting on these trainings and creating solutions, we'll do all of the energy calculations. Hell, we even provide a one-page proposal letter that he can then paste onto his own letterhead. So we have to help constantly be creating business for these people. Early on we talked about creating solutions for them, but we need to help them, especially in any kind of an economic downturn. We need to show him how we can help him create business.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because I think one of the important values that the vendors used to bring, and some of them still do, but they used to help distributors with their business, doing exactly what you said, John, giving them kind of the crystal ball look at what's happening, where they were going, sharing some information, intelligence or whatever, and telling everybody, you better start looking at this. And, here, they would actually come and give you business information, how to make sure, they would give you systems job term pricing for long, when that the project was going to be a 30 day. And again, they were interested in the distributor's business and making sure they were successful so that they in turn could do what you're saying with the contractor. I think you're so right. I think that's the synergies that happen when you have the Eric is two-step driven, that he will never yield that the distributor is the most important person in the whole chain, the channel without the distributor. And the three local reasons you said were idealistic. I mean, it was perfect. You got the product there, you got the knowledge and support, but you also have the financing. So what you said, John, is even more important, because we're having a severe clog in we don't have enough people in the business. Renee Joseph from Johnson Controls wrote a thing in 2017 that said 60% of the people presently involved in the HVAC world, whether they're technicians, customer support, product specialists, or whatever capacity, distributors, are all going to retire by 2024. That's going to create an even more exacerbated, problem for who can do what, when, who's available. I had a ride with a guy. We drove from West Virginia back. It was a customer calls. They can't get their houses fixed. If you call a commercial, a contractor in their area, they put you down like it's you're going to get a health test. They put you down in December. They can come. You need the help today. The first available appointment is in December. It's like, holy moly, because he said they got leaky roofs. They got it's an HOA thing where they've got to. These guys are actually banding together within their community to become a contractor. Who's available on Saturday to go help so and so? I thought that is remarkable, but it's just such a clear ringing bell that's only going to get worse. What are you doing, or what do you think should be done to get more talent and reduce this reduction? We just don't have any people coming in the pipeline. We just don't have any. We don't have any schools. They're all doing as well as they can, the trade schools and the tech schools, but it's a tiny little fraction of people coming into our industry versus the amount of people leaving. What are you doing, and what do you think about all that?
Well, I truly think that we are distributors. We represent many manufacturers. I think we need some help from our manufacturers, because you're right. Very few people coming into the business that know it or want to learn it from the ground up. Like I said, we're hiring, computer science majors. Well, they're great guys. They do a great job at what they're supporting. They know things that I will probably never get to learn. But the basics, that's what we're missing right now. And we all have Niagara certification trainings. We all have these high-end trainings. The basics is where it's really missing. Somehow we have to make our industry somehow more sexy so that we can attract people. I'm not sure I know what the answer is there.
Understood.
We've brought some young people in. I was a graduate of Northeastern University in Boston. They have a co-op program. I think out of probably 22 people, 22 kids that we've brought in for 6-month co-ops at a time, I think 2 of those people have stayed in the industry. The rest of them have moved on to other bigger and better engineering fields. Here's your choice. You go to work for 20-person control consultants in Weymouth, Mass, or do you go to work for BMW down in North Carolina? I think my choice would be BMW.
Well, that's a very astute observation, and so I think that and I probably rolled too many things in together with my last comment, but you said you help contractors generate business, and I think that is the future. I think knowing that there's things coming, from technology and being that vetting service that you do for people, filtering what's really important. I mean, a lot of stuff, bells and whistles, it's there, it's great technology, but it really doesn't fix anything. Some of the favorite things that I love hearing from we go to these Realcomm, IBCon, these different meetings, is people like Paul Oswald get up and said, fix the damn fan belts, fix, quit talking about, all these extraordinary cloud services when you don't even take care of your basic maintenance stuff. And see, that's where I think, that honesty, that open business style where people work in partners. Eric always likes the integrity, we're in an integrity economy, because once you blow that trust, it's very hard to restore it and get people back with you again. So I think we got to reassemble some of the business components, and address exactly what you said, that the financing is so critical. I lived in Germany 9 years, and one of the most remarkable things that having a background in distribution and family business, was you couldn't start the project until the funding was already in place. You couldn't go out on credit. You had to have the money first. So the cart was there, and then you select the horses, and I think one day we're going to have to get more along those lines, because, the risk involved now going out with the different companies, and people experimenting with your money, and then some of them just coming up short and quitting on you. I mean, it's just, it's becoming too, so the distributor's role, even though we're taking more of that aspect on, it's at a higher risk, and it's not a good idea. It's not going to work.
Yeah, I think to what Kenny's saying too is I think that we are in a very disruptive phase. I mean, all throughout the industry, from products to people to distribution, and I think ultimately it's going to get back to the basics, where you're going to have there are going to be certain things that are going to resonate, and that's part of the initial question, John. I mean, there's certain things we're going to have to let go of, and some other things we're going to have to embrace. And I think the type of people we hire is one of them. I think, really honing in on the value that we create and I think helping create a market, because I think as a distributor, I look at the vendors as being one customer set and then the people we're actually selling to being another customer set, right? I mean, those are two masters that we try to serve. And if we can help create the market, and, one way is either we're out talking to the customers direct, trying to pull it through, or even just being available so that that contractor knows, hey, if I've got an opportunity, a John Donahue or an Eric Stromquist or a Ken Smyers can come in and help me close that sale because we got the sales skills. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I look at my cost, the throwaway cost, is salespeople. And it's not that the salespeople aren't great, but I mean, you guys remember when we first got in the business, you could get access anywhere. I could walk into any hospital, any school board maintenance, any university with a box of donuts, and there were people sitting around. They would talk to me for hours because they didn't have to, be working, right? So I always had access to influence. I try doing that now. I'm going to get shot, right? Because of security and, those sorts of threats. Plus all the maintenance staffs have been truncated down. So now you got one or two people doing the job that 10 or 15 people did 10 or 15 years ago. So it's like, for me, my salespeople, they're out making cold calls, or if you're a contractor and you're out making cold calls, you're throwing money away. You're not going to get them to see people, most likely. You have to have those people because if there's a problem, you have to be able to respond to that. But generating new business with salespeople is my most expensive cost, right? And I don't know about how you guys feel about that, but if we can bring that to the contractors so they don't have to have as many salespeople hired, so if they do get a lead, we can go with their people and help them close it. That's got to be tremendous value. Amazon's not going to do that. Alps is not going to do that.
Agreed. And it's one of the things we've started to do probably in the last 6 months, reaching out to, 6 of our top service type companies and asking them permission to go talk to their customers about their facilities, what their needs are, what their biggest issues are, because those service companies are just that. They're service companies. They're typically always responding to a problem and fixing that problem. But, again, I'll go back to the tremendous utility rebate programs we have here and, and taking advantage of them and making the customer aware of them and the end user aware of them, and then pulling our customer in to try to give them a solution. And I mean, it can be something as simple as lights. It always drives me crazy when I see outdoor lighting on at 4
Light
o'clock.
litter.
Yeah, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in July because
me too.
it needed to be on. And, and it's great to be able to talk to a guy and say, hey, and find out that he's a golfer. And I'll often ask him, how many holes do you think you can typically play after sunset? And, the answer is typically at least 2, maybe 3. And I'm saying, well, then why the hell are you turning your lights on even at sunset, right?
Yeah.
Let's push it out, a half hour after sunset. And today we have the ability to do that. It's just not a mechanical time clock. So, yeah, we're meeting with a lot of our customers. And again, these are trusted, valued customers of ours who know that we're not trying to go steal business from them. And it's created work for them and work that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And the end result is they've got a happy customer. So.
Yeah.
And I think of one client recently, I think we've been back 3 different times over a 2-year period, and we keep bringing him additional solutions. We didn't try to hit him with the kitchen sink on day one. We just took a couple of measures, and then the following year we did a couple of more measures, and I think we're going to do probably 2 or 3 more this year. So,
well, you hit on a great point, John. It ultimately gets down to the relationships, because when you've been in business as long as the 3 of us have, it's like you've got a lot of great relationships. You have a lot of access. So for the vendors out there, they're trying to think, well, should we go direct or should we go through distribution? My brother had a definition of a consultant once, which was somebody that knows 9 million different ways to make love but doesn't know any women. So we, the distributors are the people. We know the women. We've got the relationships. So, if you've got a product and you're looking for, that's my advice. Look through the guy the distributors that have the relationships, because that's part of the value we bring to the vendors is we've got the relationships and we've got trusted relationships. And then, which gets back to what we talked about earlier, that we have to vet really, really well the products, because one of the reasons we have these trusted relationships is because we kick the tires on something before we bring it to one of our customers.
Correct.
Well, I really like that concept, John, and the rebate programs and stuff, the education. I know some other distributors out in the Midwest and towards the West, areas that have energy issues are the government's still alive and well with rebates. Some areas have too much energy and you can't, you trip over,
Right.
there's no opportunities to dry it up, but the whole idea of having like a constant pulse of the technology update briefing or presentations, on behalf of your customers to their, particularly in the MUSH markets, municipalities, university schools, and hospitals, they really do like somebody that can come in and give them a good, concise presentation of what options are available, real easy steps on like you said, bringing in the technologies, but certainly preaching the open system, open protocol stuff, So I think that is the future. I think it's going to be more of a teamwork. I think you can see more consolidation. I think you can see more assimilation. You're going to see people doing things that they didn't want to do before. I think managed services for how open, what that means to different people, but we're going to become also very much involved in managed services. Distributors are going to become, are going to align themselves right and left with technologies that will produce IT solutions as part of it, and then certainly lay the groundwork so there's a good, healthy integration there. But,
well, you bring up a good point, Kenny, and I want to shift gears a little bit because something that I learned from your brother Tommy in those rough bars in Rockford was that, hey, if you look like you're going to go in a tough situation, you want to pick somebody that's really big and can that you can have your back. And John, congratulations to you. I think you've aligned with a great organization with great people. But you wanted to talk a little bit about about your sort of consolidation with one of the industry greats and how that's affected your business and what benefits your customers are getting out of that and how it's going to affect your moving to Philadelphia.
Yeah, so this past Monday was 2 years. 2 years ago, we were acquired by Kelly Inc. out of Memphis, Tennessee, and it's a tremendous thing for us. I think that as a systems distributor, I think we are torn between, the realization of online buying and the investment that you really have to make in to be competitive in that market. And there are some very successful people out there that's all they do. They're not solution providers. They're just purely, part suppliers over the internet. It's a fact we have to face as distributors. And as a smaller independent distributor, I didn't see a way that we could serve both masters, how we could serve that market as well as the solution market, right? So partnering with Kelly has brought me one of probably the best online presence available in the industry. We probably represented somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 manufacturers before we were purchased. Probably 12 of them being primary vendors and the rest of them secondary. Kelly today now brings me 400 manufacturers that they have strong relationships with. We're selling a lot of products today that I wasn't selling 2 years ago. So, it has done nothing but help grow our revenue. It's allowed us at Control Consultants to focus on what we really like to do, and that's being a solution provider as opposed to just a parts supplier. But we also know as distributors, selling pieces and parts generates a good part of our revenue as well. And I don't have to combat the internet world by myself. That more or less is handled by Kelly. It's nice to have a big team of people. They've got tremendous technical support internally down in Memphis on all of the product they supply. So, even when my salespeople are selling a product that was completely foreign to them a week ago, they have a resource down in Memphis that they can reach out to get some really good technical support on. So, hey, it's been a great 2 years. I'm looking forward to a couple more good years with them.
Well, congratulations. And yeah, Kelly is a great company. John, sort of as we wind down a little bit, first of all, let's give them a website they can get hold of you at. Controls is cci.com or ccicontrols.com?
It's controlconsultantsinc.com.
Very, very, very cool. Okay. Last question, Kenny. I'm going to pass it to you.
Well, no, I just, again, we talked about extraordinary, it's been a fun conversation because it recapped, some of our own experiences, that going back, John saying 1979, that's just, I mean, think about that, how many years ago that was, when you're talking 40 years down the road there.
We don't look that old, though, do we, John? I know
No.
you're incognito because of the whole Philadelphia thing, and you can't let people see what you look like because you're talking to people in Philadelphia. But we don't look that old, do we?
No, but here's the one thing I do know, Eric. When you do present this, you do not want to break out that photo of us from Rockville, Illinois.
I had hair then.
We will definitely look old today. So.
Yeah, I got you, brother.
Well, so the crystal ball, John, where are we going to be at? Okay, so now we're in 2019, closing up the year. We're in October. We're looking forward to, a good, strong finish. We're looking forward to the Control Trends Awards. We'll see you down there, I'm sure, right? February 2nd at the, you go into the Control Trends Awards, right?
Because the Distributor of the Year is a new category we got this year. So
exactly, Eric, you picked up on it.
What Kenny's trying to say is, how's it going to affect your relationship with Kelly if you beat them for Distributor of the Year?
Well, we're a family. We're one and the same, right? As we are, Kelly.
Look at that. This guy could go into politics. He's ready. That didn't even faze him. Anyhow, the thing I was going to ask John is, where do you see our industry in 5 years? Where the heck are we going to be? I mean, besides on the golf course yelling for Eric slice shots, but where are we going to be as an industry in 5 years? If you took a wild guess.
Well, I think as long as, going back to something Eric said early on in the conversation, as long as we are willing to progress, I think that we will be wherever the industry takes us, right? We can't sit still. We have to be prepared for change, and we have to be willing to change. I think that our industry will catch up with the other technologies that are out there. Right? Hey, they're big guy.
So here's the future of controls right here. So I'm the future of controls.
I'm the future of controls.
There
You go.
Millennials, watch out.
Millennials, watch out.
Because I'm going to knock you downtown.
Because I'm going to knock you downtown.
All right, JD. So, man, thanks so much for being on the show. This is my son, Axel Banked, right here. And he's down here playing. What are you playing with? Your airplane, guys?
Yeah?
Okay, go play. All right. JD, thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you both. And you know what? And for those younger people out there as well who know you guys quite well from, the success of the whole Control Trends thing, they need to know about the foundation of distribution. And the foundation of distribution in our business was on the shoulders of your fathers, right?
Well, thank you, brother.
The Stromquist company, the Smyers company, and the G&O Thermals and the Interstate Electrics. I mean, these were the guys who, now, what are we talking, 75 years ago, right? When just prior to that, you had to go to a city desk at a manufacturer to pick up a replacement piece of parts. And it was your forefathers that really laid the foundation for our success. And as much success as I've had over the years, and the credit that people like to give me, and none of it ever could have happened without the work that was laid before me.
Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Very, very well said, brother.
Well, I think we better close on that, because that was a good solemn thing. And
Matter of fact, I might just edit and just leave it at that right there. That might be the only part of the interview, JD. But thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. And listen, if you're in the Boston or Philadelphia area, you definitely want, in New York, you definitely want to check out John Donahue, Controls Consultants. John's one of the great guys. John will be glad when you're able to get past the incognito thing. So a couple of weeks, we make the big announcement. Is that it?
Yeah, and I'll send you a picture at that point in time. How's that?
Perfect. Okay, John, thank you so much, brother.
Guys, have a good day.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Well, Kenny Smyers, John Donahue, man, one of the greats. And you have to ask your brother Tommy about our time in Rockford, because that was truly epic. And by the grace of God, the three of us survived and are not either dead or in a federal penitentiary. And
well, those back in the days, you got away with stuff. Nobody threw you in jail for doing something dumb. You got a warning at least.
Well, they should have.
Don't do that again. Now it's like
they have thrown us in jail for the stuff we were doing, but they didn't. So, which is a good thing. But ask your brother Tommy about that. And I'd like to shout out to Tom Smyers, your older brother, Edward C. Smyers Company. I saw him at CG&A, and Tommy, you're just doing a fantastic job here. Keep hanging in there, doing what you're doing. And Jesse Smyers, shout out to you. And those are the
Sunbury
Force
Controls, yeah. Sunbury.
Myers, the Force Myers boys I know. But listen, the one comment John made that I want to get your response to, when we talked about the distributor of the year being one of the categories, and he goes, well, if I win or they win, it's okay because we're just one big family. We share those sorts of things. Now, how much reality is that, given the fact that you had how many brothers and sisters?
Well, there's 11 of us total.
Okay,
And,
so
there were 7 boys, 4 girls, and I had 6
So was
brothers.
John being a little idealistic, thinking it was going to be like that? Hey, I'm so happy you won. Versus, I mean, in your family.
Well, John has a very he's a pro. So I mean, he's a salesman, so he can deflect. And I thought he was a very ambassadorial type. Pretty smart. But when it comes down to competition, don't you kid yourself. Donahue was a fierce competitor. Whether it's golf, whether it's the Patriots, or whether it's competing for an award, he wants to win. And that's just his style, and he does very good. But I think it was what he said though. I think you're just having a good attitude. Everybody's a winner. Remember, Control Trends Awards was all about the heroes. We had a good session about that today, reviewing some of the past history, some of the past greats. Remembering some folks that have gone already to the big BAS system in the sky, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But there's a family-ish type of thing that we're a very few group of people. It's a very esoteric career field. We're having, we talked about the challenges of getting more people involved, and John's stat right there scared me, but I'm going to take that right to the next meeting we have when we talk about the getting people into our industry. So he had 21 interns basically for 6-month program from a legitimate educational institution. So it was no hanky panky there. They got a real fair good look at this, and 2 of them out of 21. That's a pretty miserable statistics.
Yeah, but what they're not realizing is that Elon Musk and the rest of them are working on it, where they're going to replace all those people that are getting those jobs at Google and Apple with machines. So it's coming. So they'll come back. You'll come back to us. So just whether you want to start on the bottom or start on the top, we're the place you want to be. We're your new home. You can affect the environment. You can have a great career. It's cool. HVAC people are the coolest people in the world. Smart building people are even cooler. I mean, just look at me and Kenny. Yeah, we're getting crickets here. So, all right, buddy. Well, listen, man.
Yeah, really.
Our guest, John Donahue, this week from Controls Consultants. John, thanks again. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll be back next week, maybe with Ken Sinclair even. So remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant.
Indeed, Aaron.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. And that's a wrap.